Well, everybody, it's 4 minutes after 10, and welcome to the Commission on Reentry. Thank you all for being here today. At this time, I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order, and if Clerk Holly, if you wouldn't mind calling the roll.
Director Ward,
Here.
Senator Barfoot, Representative Chestnut, Department of Corrections, here. Department of Mental Health, here. Department of Human Resources, here. Medicaid, Aaliyah, here. Department of Labor, Department of Veteran Affairs, Office of Prosecution Services, and Alabama Community College Systems.
Here.
Okay, we got 10 and we have a quorum.
Here comes Senator Barfoot rushing into the room from the back. You received a copy of last meeting's minutes. Any questions about those minutes? Is there a motion to adopt the minutes? It's been moved by
Second.
Mr. Taylor, second by Dr. Funderburk. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Thank you. Minutes have been adopted. Okay, our first item on the agenda, Commission on Evaluations. Come forward and bring wisdom to us.
Best to provide some context and analysis around the work that we did for the commission, kind of behind the scenes. Back when this commission was formed, we met with Rebecca and we started talking about various options that the Commission on Evaluation could help. So I'm Patrick Dean, I'm the Assistant Director for the Commission on Evaluation, and no need to tell any of you, but y'all have quite a laundry list of objectives to accomplish with this commission, and not the least of those were to identify, implement, and promote evidence-based research practices and programs in the state, with kind of a dual mission of lowering the collateral cost of incarceration and cost efficiently advancing reentry and reintegration efforts. So for a group like us, that's a whole bunch of great buzzwords that we like to get really involved in and really dig into. So what we wanted to do was try to provide a starting block for this commission to help advance some of those objectives. And what you have here is that list, and that's what I'm going to call a starting block. And it is really just a starting block because I'm going to cover a couple of big caveats that you'll need to understand before we talk about what it shows and what it gives you. But first and foremost is these programs that you have listed here are not necessarily Alabama programs. These are rigorously studied programs that have a demonstrated impact on criminal activity for program participants. That could be positive program or positive impact or negative impact, just depending on the program. The second is it's not an exhaustive list. It's only those programs that have been rigorously studied. There's really well-defined evidence across multiple cohorts, large effect sizes to have those impacts. Now, what does this show you? So this is a benefit cost analysis that we performed of those programs. Again, programs that have evidence of impact for criminal activity for program participants. And they break it down. We have name brand program names. Some of those are name brand programs. They're designed to be implemented in a certain way with certain criteria. Other ones are general concepts around delivery, intensive supervision, a lot of variables that go into those. We have program categories, so traditional criminal justice programs, programs that are delivered in supervision, within supervision in the community, and programs that are delivered while incarcerated or in a confined area. You have education programs, children's programs, public health programs, mental health, substance abuse programs, and we've kind of categorized all of those for you with program descriptions. You have two fields there with numbers in them. One's a percent. That probability is the probability that the cost of delivering the program to one participant is less than the benefits that the state and that participant will receive from going through the program. So the next column next to it, you see net present value, break-even cost, break-even. That is total estimated benefits for one participant to go through the program. Now, how do we get that? We have a pretty advanced economic model that we use, and it creates values based off of various incomes, criminal activity, wages, taxpayer benefits, taxes paid from increased wages, and all of the like. Those benefits can be projected out from as little as 6 months depending on the evidence, to as long as 30, 40 years, depending on which impacts it has. Those benefits are accrued across a variety of sectors: societal benefits, tax dollars, those kind of things, program participant benefits, direct benefits that the person receives, less dependency on alcohol or substance abuse, right? They have better health outcomes, so they have direct benefits. Society has better, community has better benefits because they have less use of emergency departments or things like that. Obviously, a major component of that is reduction in criminal activity, means less court costs, less court fees, less confinement in jails, less prosecution fees, less public defender fees, and of course, less incarceration fees in state prisons. So those benefits all accrue and build up there. We developed a marginal cost based off the best available evidence. Again, not specific to Alabama because we didn't do any specific Alabama analysis or even come to y'all to get that cost. So we based this off of a large number of factors, also based on the evidence, but we come up with a marginal cost. The cost to add one participant to the program is how we kind of define that marginal cost. How much more would it cost to bring one more person into this program? And then we run that analysis based off that marginal cost, the anticipated benefits, and then you have that value there for the break-even cost, which means that if in Alabama, based off of these estimates, if you can deliver the cost for less than that amount, we will have benefits that exceed the cost, a positive benefit to cost ratio. That produces the probability that you see next to it. So we run this analysis multiple times. We do a Monte Carlo analysis up to 1,000 times is what we ran this on for each of these programs. So, that distributes over a curve, and then the percentage that exceeds the benefits exceed the cost is where you get that. Now, this is what the Commission on Reentry can do with this, what y'all can do with this, or leave it, but you notice over there on the far right column we have agencies, and it's all blank all the way down. That's because we didn't go to any of y'all. We didn't say, hey, do y'all do any of these programs? Do y'all deliver these substantially similar format? And what's your marginal cost of delivery? If this commission decides to take this up, wants to do this to fulfill those objectives, they can circulate this around the organizations, identify which programs that your agencies deliver to participants, identify marginal costs, provide that back to the Commission on Evaluation. We can update our economic model with Alabama-specific information for the programs, produce actual estimated benefits per participant, also the probability that benefits will exceed cost. We can also do some more less econometric production with that down the road. It won't be an evaluation, it'll just be an estimate, again, based off the best available evidence. If we want to know exactly what happens in Alabama, we've got to evaluate Alabama's programs for impact. That requires pretty intensive evaluation and impact evaluation to come up with those effect sizes for Alabama and produce actual benefits for Alabama, not just estimated benefits for Alabama. We took this analysis, we made an interactive web visual on our website. We broke it down into all of the component areas: criminal justice, custody programs, criminal justice supervision programs, adult mental health and substance abuse programs, education and children's programs, public health, and workforce development is also in there. You can go through here. You can see exactly how they stack up with benefits across the x-axis on the bottom, and then the probability that benefits will exceed the cost on the top. You can click on any one of these, and you can click Learn More to learn more about them. It'll give you the program name, program description, total benefits, probability that costs exceed benefits, probability that benefits exceed cost. And you can, of course, just hover over it and get that same kind of name and probability and information. So that was a lot really quickly, but I'll stand here and answer as many questions as you have for me and what we can do with this moving forward.
Hey, thank you so much for this report. It's really great information, and I would like to move forward with this particular committee to be able to break down the Alabama program so that we can be specific to Alabama. So thank you so much for your hard work. This is an excellent report. I am hoping that this committee will dig deeper into this in the future as we look at Alabama-specific programs. My one question was, so there's information on here about drug courts and some veterans courts, which is amazing. But some of the challenges that we have here in Alabama is that we don't really have a data collection system that's really collecting that. It's kind of different amongst the different jurisdictions. So where did that information come from?
Again, that came from the best available evidence, and that some of those studies may have been produced in Alabama. Most of them have been produced outside of the state. Across all of these were produced with a meta-analysis, which means that evaluations were performed on these programs in multiple instances, large effect sizes, large number of observations in those studies, and we marginalize that cost as well as those benefits based off of those studies. They're not specific to Alabama. You just indicated one of those issues with drug courts and veterans courts, or any program delivered by providers in Alabama, is that data collection is not necessarily up to snuff enough for us to do ready-made, quick evaluations of impact for Alabama programs. That would take much more intensive to aggregate all of that data and provide that analysis. The second issue that we have in Alabama, it's not unique to Alabama, but we certainly have it in Alabama, is that those programs, like you said, the data collection might not be the same, but the delivery is most likely not the same as well. We're experiencing that with another commission on pretrial diversion alternative courts in this state, and nothing's delivered the same in Alabama anywhere you go. So It's hard to say this is what you're going to get statewide for a program that looks very different from north to south, or even within the same county. If you have two municipal courts to deliver a DUI court differently, the impacts are going to be different.
So define this for me. Say we dive deep into the Alabama programs, which I agree with you, Rebecca, we should. I think it gives us a better picture of, hey, this works, this over here just doesn't work, and maybe we need to reinvest our resources. But define success. I know that depends on the program, of course, but whether it's a drug court, whether it's a halfway house, define. So you look at the breakdown of the break even or net and the probability number. What is success?
Success depends on the question that you're asking. So from a financial standpoint, most financial investors would say success is the ability for my benefits to exceed my cost. From a criminal justice reentry standpoint, success is going to be look at a range of factors from decreased recidivism, meaning lack of return to criminal activity once they've come out of their punishment or criminal activity, their prior criminal activity. But it also may look like increased wages, increased employment, decreased dependency on foreign substances, substance abuse issues, overall improved mental health.
How do you quantify that into a dollar amount?
We take, when our economic model uses those outcome benefits, so let's say that increased engagement with mental health providers has a correlation with decreased use of emergency departments, because they use their primary providers, they use their case managers or however, and they don't end up going back to the emergency department as often as they do. And when you do that, we can, based off of Alabama numbers, we can say the decreased use in emergency department visits equates to whatever amount of dollars benefits over time.
Or even less reliance, say, on Medicaid. Maybe less reliance on a Medicaid, or a less reliance on mental health services or DHR. There's a dollar figure in there.
Yeah, those are a little bit harder because the programs, especially these kind of programs, are designed to use those services to avoid much more costly outcomes, like emergency department visits, like extended stays in confinement in a mental health facility, those kind of things, right? You want people interacting in the community in a safe and reasonable manner, and that's how you get your best benefits, because they're engaged in the community, oftentimes employing. Now, to your first question, you have programs in here that have a negative impact on crime. So if you're on the crime side of things, you go, oh, that program makes them increase. But from an overall standpoint, they're in the community, they're less involved with substance abuse or other issues. Their crime actually increases because they're out and able to commit the crimes, often petty crimes, theft, or something like that. But it does have a positive impact on crime. So we reflect that in the analysis. We can go down and with each of these programs and list exactly what outcomes are monetized, what outcomes are not monetized, and give you the effect sizes, whether it's positive or negative, for each of these programs.
And that's what I'd like to look at is maybe if we can do a deep dive into our Alabama situation, the programs we provide. Because like I know Barry, Hal, John, and myself, we're going to look at recidivism rates. And I know there's an economic factor in how much state, but what programs are working, which ones aren't. Some of us are going to weigh recidivism rates more than anything else. Others are going to weigh, how much reliance do you have on certain government services, and you're spending X amount, but in return you're only. So I don't know how we get there, Rebecca. We need to think about that. But we should all figure out a way that we can evaluate our own services just to see. It'd be nice just to have a photo for each agency so we knew.
I agree. Also, I would like to commend you on this work. I know doing this nationwide is time consuming, and I appreciate you doing this work. My question is, I'm also assuming that you received good studies and bad studies, and I'm hopeful that you would be open to our call individually if you have some of those to share with us where we could research those studies of how we might be able to do our jobs better. Would you be available to and open to those kinds of calls?
Certainly. It's not an exhaustive list, like I said. The studies that are incorporated are as rigorous as can be expected for whatever the program types. Randomized controlled trial is always the gold standard, but it's always also not necessarily feasible. You can't just deny somebody treatment for the sake of going through a program that needs a specific kind of treatment. So we have to come up with some other quasi-experimental those things. But luckily, our model has already encompassed a vast amount of those, so we can share those easily. And then we're also available to look at Alabama-specific evidence to incorporate that where available. I do think, like I said at the outset, this is a starting block, right? So if you want to do this in Alabama, this is a great piece to say these are rigorously studied programs. You can identify which ones of these are done in Alabama, and then you can start looking at your other programs that aren't on this list and say, these might be our areas to start our own analysis to figure out what our impact of these programs is. Because you have some level of confidence based off of continuum evidence, which is a whole other thing that I could get into, but I won't to save you some time. But these are at the top of that list. So if we're going to use resources, it's best to start at those ones that we don't have that confidence in and build that confidence in the programs that we deliver.
I think we've got a little bit of a dilemma in that we sort of live and die by the anecdotal story. The bad anecdotal stories beat us down, and then we love to talk about the great stories of success. And I think that needs to be somehow, if it can be baked into this, because when the populations we're dealing with are, when you're talking about addiction, where God bless somebody that is living under that weight, because their decisions aren't obviously rational. And so we're dealing with those people that we know when we agree to work with them, they're going to fail 2, 3, 4, 5 times. And that's going to affect our numbers. It's just going to. I mean, we know that. And so a program that's having a lot of success or has some really tremendous stories that have changed communities and changed, trajectory of a family may have numbers that don't look that good to begin with. So if we can, I think we need to remember that to a degree. I know everybody around this table's got those stories and of success and failures. I think recidivism is a big part of this and how we define that. But I do think that if there's a way to because in the vacuum of each of these cases, people make decisions, I'm going to bet on this person or not. I think this person can make it or they can't. And I think that's something that we need to kind of, as you go forward, I know for math folks, those kind of things are different than they are for us that aren't math.
So anybody that's read our reports, we normally bury this kind of information on a regular basis. And we kind of internally say, right, it's providing the evidence to the anecdote. So the stories matter. The stories tell the picture the best. But ultimately, what you're exactly bringing up is, all right, we know that there's going to be a certain failure rate, but does going through this program reduce the number of failures? Does it extend the period at which between those failures, and compared to whatever that control is, whatever the alternative to this treatment is? And that's the math part of it, and that's how we project these benefits and these effect sizes. But at the end of the day, behind all of that positive impact is a story of individuals collectively.
I'll tell you, I wouldn't be able to recite this to anybody when we leave here, but I'm intrigued by it. And I think it's will be some helpful information. How do you account for an individual who may be, for instance, in a domestic violence perpetrator program and also in a DUI court type setting? Do you split those? I mean, which one helped, which one didn't? Is it a combination of both? How do you come up with that?
Yeah, so if we were going to do that, we would have to really frame that evaluation. Each of these evaluations is going to look at unique program scenarios. Dual programs is going to be something difficult, and you would have to build cohorts to do that kind of analysis. And that's something that we would really, it starts with inventorying the programs and understanding what Johnny Smith might go through based off of his age, criminal history, his mental health issues, his standard of living, all of those kind of factors. And you build those cohorts of similarly situated people so that you can compare Johnny Smith to John Doe and say, Johnny Smith went through these two programs and his benefits were X, but John Doe went through just one of these programs and his benefits were X. And when you do that on enough size, you go, hey, the Johnny Smiths of the world get this much more by going through both at whatever extra cost that is to produce those benefits.
But this data is for a Johnny Smith who went through a singular program, correct?
Most of these studies, there may be, and I haven't, I'm not going to say that I've got all of those, but most of these studies are going to be looking at individual people going through an individual program and trying to at least control for any other circumstances that they may be going through. And the impacts that are listed here are only for that one program.
My gut feeling tells me if those numbers are accurate for Johnny Smith going through one program, that an additional program probably would not negatively impact the numbers. It may positively impact. That's my gut feeling.
Yeah, not necessarily, but that's that evidence to the anecdote, because you may have a program whose whatever they have to go through negative. Let's say both of those programs require randomized drug testing, and so the cost to the participant in that case might he may have to be drug tested 4 or 5 times a week between the two programs because they don't talk to each other and don't work together, and that drains down that benefits to him because now more money is going into a program that he doesn't realize from, even if he is able to stay off of substances.
Good point. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Chairman, I'm not sure if this needs to be addressed to the committee or not, or if it has to be a vote, but I would like to move forward to work with Patrick's committee and be able to create a timeline and possibly a methodology to present to everyone so that we can go to the different organizations, break down the programming that's being provided as this bill does require. It requires us to break down the cost efficiency of evidence-based programs and what we're delivering to the population that we serve. So I'm not sure if that requires a vote or not.
What's the feeling
but
around
I'd
the
like to move
table?
forward.
In short, I mean, you're just asking that we get as we said, an Alabama-based evaluation of, and there's going to be a lot of factors. Barry, I think you raised a good point. I know others did too, in that, that there's other variables we do have to look at. And I agree with something Senator Barfoot said, in that you have oftentimes like the drug court and domestic violence. Usually if it's drug court, there's another issue involved too. 7, 8 out of 10 times there's it's a dual track. So that may complicate it, but yeah, I think we should look at that. Is there any objections around this table to that? Can you move forward with that?
I don't have the authority to speak to that. I can tell you that we're a very small agency. There's 4 of us. I'm just the nerd. I have a director, and we have a commission ourselves that we have to answer to. We have some pretty exhaustive work products coming over.
Could we present that to to that committee? I know it's a joint oversight committee.
I'm going to let my director answer the work product questions from here.
Excuse me, you got it. So I'm Marcus Morgan, Director of the Commission on Evaluation of Services. You got us at a good time. We're in the planning session of our 2023 work plan. So we will be meeting with our various members of the commission and going through various projects that we can undertake in 2023. Our 2022 work plan is already scheduled and underway. This was an aside that we did starting in 2021 and coming to fruition today here. So we work for the commission. We're at the mercy of what the commission wants to study and what the commission wants to evaluate and how deep they want to go. So it's certainly something that we can bring back to them and saying that there's an interest, that we see value in providing this level of detail. We definitely we scope our evaluations very we take critical measures in scoping our evaluations to make sure that we prove or we can bring value to our members and have them take action on those
Who's
evaluations.
chairman of the commission? Is it Senator Orr now?
It is.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Vice chair is Chief of Staff Phil Moore. Yep. So happy to contribute, but certainly need to run it up the chain.
Well, with permission of the committee here, would y'all mind if we pursued this? Okay, we will be in touch.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you. No other questions. We'll move on to the next item. And by the way, thank you for the great presentation today, Marcus Patrick. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, Camp Hope. Kelly, will give us a good presentation today? Okay, no problem. No, glad to. Welcome.
Good to see you, Commissioner Ward. Good morning, Chairman Ward, distinguished members of the committee. My name is Jeremy Scher. I'm an Assistant United States Attorney with the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Northern District of Alabama. For the last decade plus, I've worked with many of your agencies in relation to improving reentry outcomes for people involved in our local, state, and federal justice systems. It's my honor to join you here today, and it's my joy to have the opportunity to introduce you in a few moments to one of our best partners towards promoting public safety and protecting victims of crime in Jefferson County. While primarily operating as a federal prosecutorial agency, the U.S. Attorney's Office also seeks to prevent crime by addressing factors that can lead to an increased likelihood of crime and violence in our communities. With that aim, we actively partner with local law enforcement and community stakeholders to identify and address the factors driving crime in our communities. Since the founding of One Place Metro Family Justice Center in 2016, the U.S. Attorney's Office has closely partnered with it to improve protections for victims of sexual and intimate partner violence. By working with partners such as One Place, the YWCA, the Hispanic Interest Coalition of Alabama, and local law enforcement prosecutors through Jefferson County's Firearms Technical Assistance Project, we've been able to firmly document the correlation between domestic violence and community violence in Jefferson County. For each of the last 3 years, a majority of the known homicide offenders in Jefferson County had prior domestic violence offenses. To put it more precisely, these homicide offenders had an average of 3 prior domestic violence offenses before they committed a murder. Local partners in Jefferson County are actively working to identify better ways to protect victims of violence and to intervene in the horrifying progression of violence that often spills out of homes and into the community. Because of this documented correlation, our office, along with federal and local law enforcement agencies, have prioritized this nexus of domestic violence and community violence. Now, much of our office's crime prevention work parallels that of our reentry initiatives. After all, both efforts focus upon reducing the risk of future criminality by improving life outcomes and removing barriers to success. Just as people previously incarcerated are at an increased risk for future criminal activity, other groups of people are statistically more likely to eventually contact the criminal justice system. Decades of research demonstrates that child victims of abuse and neglect are significantly more likely to eventually be arrested, incarcerated, and confront other difficult circumstances in life. In short, trauma often begots more trauma, unless something meaningful interrupts that cycle. While not every kid that is abused or neglected eventually commits crime, many, if not most, of the people in our state and federal prisons did suffer neglect and abuse as children. One Place Metro Family Justice Center is seeking to build a healthier, safer, and more hopeful pathway forward for trauma-impacted youth. Our community is excited about the program that Kelly Clem of One Place Metro Family Justice Center is about to share with you. It's unlike anything that currently exists in Alabama, and we believe that it will make a difference. Kelly?
Good morning. I am Kelly Clem, and I am the Director of Hope Initiatives at One Place Family Justice Center in Birmingham. And the bulk of my position is getting this Camp Hope America programming started, which will be the first in Alabama. It is in 25 other states. It's a national program that was created specifically for kids who have experienced domestic violence in their home. It is both a week-long summer camp and year-round Pathways mentoring program. And I just want to say like a few sentences about how we got to be this family justice center with on-site partners who serve adults primarily. Why are we doing this programming for kids? It's because in 2019, a lot of stuff happened in our community in Jefferson County. I just started at One Place. We had a big strategic planning event over 2 days with 50 community stakeholders. People from the Family Justice Center movement from California had come and were presenting to us and helping us think about where our organization was going to go over the next 5 to 10 years. They kept talking about Camp Hope. We need to do some prevention work. We can't keep responding to all these negative things that are happening. We weren't ready to do Camp Hope. It sounds great, but we weren't ready. Well, then Camille Cupcake McKinney was kidnapped and found dead. Then Anaya Blanchard was kidnapped and found dead. Then Megan Montgomery was killed by her estranged husband, all within the span of like 3 months, less than 3 months in our community. So we were coming to work, checking our experiencing this, and we got sick of that. And we were like, we need to be on the other end of the spectrum. So what can we do to prevent some of this, to stop this from happening? Camp Hope. So we reached out to Camp Hope America in 2020, applied to be part of the programming. We spent all of 2021 learning about the programming, attending webinars and trainings and working with national staff. And then our director and myself got to go experience a week of Camp Hope in Chattanooga, Tennessee last August. And I can speak with confidence about the program because I saw it in action. I saw a group of about 20 kids have a week of summer camp where they came in and they were feeling down about themselves. They were talking about how they were outsiders, how they didn't have support at home, but they formed a group and found community at Camp Hope. And it had a huge impact on those kids and also on the camp counselors and the adult staff that were there. It was awesome. So the kids who participate in Camp Hope get referred from community agencies. So Jeremy mentioned some of One Place's on-site partners. We partner with the YWCA, the Sheriff's Office, Birmingham Police Department. So those agencies can refer kids to us. School counselors can refer kids to us. Pardons and Parole could be referring kids to us. I'm getting flyers to the Day Reporting Center in Birmingham this week. So Rebecca's kind of heard about this program a little bit. Thanks, Rebecca. So all of those people can refer kids. The kids that are referred have high ACE scores. So those kids have seen domestic violence. They might have a parent who's been incarcerated or who is incarcerated. They might have gone through the foster care system, been involved with DHR at some point. They've experienced all these traumas that increase their ACE score, which is their adverse childhood experience score. That's a 10-question survey of things that have happened maybe before you were 18. The higher your ACE score from 0 to 10, the more likely you are to experience negative life outcomes, such as like high blood pressure and obesity, but also increased delinquency rates, increased use of substances, more suicide attempts. If you have an ACE score of 4 or more, you are significantly more likely to experience those negative life outcomes. So good news though, ACEs can be kind of mitigated and reversed in some ways with positive childhood experiences. So the CDC has all these strategies for ways that you can reduce the negative impacts of ACEs. And 2 of those strategies are teaching kids skills, social emotional skills, and also connecting kids with positive adults outside the home who can be a support for those kids. And Camp Hope does both of those things. It's a little different than just maybe a regular camp or a mentoring program. If you're thinking like what's special about Camp Hope, it's because we are seeking out kids with those high ACE scores. Those are the only kids that are in our program. So the average ACE score of the kids who went through the programming nationally last year was a 6. And I just said that 4 was like that magic number. So these kids have experienced a lot in their young lives. So we're specifically working with them. We are training adults and the camp counselors. They get over 8 hours of training on trauma, how it affects the brain, how to de-escalate situations with kids, how to teach kids how to kind of calm down and have some tools in their pocket for when they're at school or when they're at home going through some of these difficult situations. And we also focus on teaching kids about hope, and that hope is a science and you can build hope into your life. So there's a whole training about that. So that's how it's kind of different than just a regular like summer camp. This science of hope is not just for kids though, and that's kind of how this touches your group here. So the science of hope is transferable to anyone. It applies to all of us in this room and all the people that your agencies work with. How powerful would it be if people who were coming out of the system knew about hope and knew about setting goals and having those pathways and had people that within those agencies that were giving these offenders hope and teaching them that what's happened in your past does not mean that your future is going to be terrible. Like, we believe in you and you can have a new pathway. Your future can be brighter than your past. And that's exactly what we teach the kids through a curriculum at camp. They learn about setting goals. They learn about having hope. They read about people who have experienced adversity in their lives and learn how those people overcame that adversity. And the kids are learning and repeating phrases like, my voice has power, my life has purpose, dreams take determination. So the kids are getting that evidence-based curriculum. So I hope that you all will look at camphopeamerica.org for more information. There's some outcomes on there. There's also this book, Hope Rising, that was written by the founder of the Family Justice Center movement, Casey Gwynn. He was a prosecutor in San Diego County in California, and he also started Camp Hope. And then Dr. Chan Hellman is a researcher at the University of Oklahoma. Chan Hellman also has a really great TED Talk about the science of hope. I think it's just, if you look up Chan Hellman TED Talk, Science and Power of Hope, I think is what the TED Talk's called. It's like 20 minutes long. If anyone wants a copy of this book, our director said we'll be happy to send you one. So get your information to me or connect with Jeremy if you have connections to him, or connect with Rebecca and get to me and we will order you a copy of the book. But right now in Birmingham, we've got 12 awesome hope coaches from the community that have stepped up to volunteer to be, they've all been trained, gone through the training. Jeremy is actually one of those hope coaches. He would never brag on himself, but he is one of those people that has stepped up to volunteer and be at these monthly events with kids and just support kids. We also have some firefighters. We've got social workers. We have a former juvenile probation officer who stepped up to do this. We're in the middle of getting referrals from kids. I think we have 4 kids right now kind of in the pipeline. We need more kids. We're aiming to take 20 to 25 kids to a week of camp, August 1st through 5th at Camp Cosby, YMCA Camp Cosby. And this can be greater than Jefferson County, right? We're doing this, like the kids in my program are going to be from kind of that greater Birmingham area. This could be across the whole state of Alabama. There's a Family Justice Center in Florence. There's a Family Justice Center here in Montgomery. All 3 of those directors are in regular contact. They have meetings talks once a month and get together. We could create a Camp Hope movement for the state of Alabama and really make a huge impact. We just need your support. We need you to talk to your contacts in your networks, talk about Camp Hope programming, check out the books, come visit us at one place. We'd be happy to tour you around our building in Birmingham. But there's a statewide network in North Carolina. There's a statewide Camp Hope network and Family Justice Center network in California. So it would be awesome if we could bring that here to Birmingham. Yes.
Could you, I know the one place started in Montgomery and Birmingham, it's grown. Could you tell everybody a little bit about what that
What a Family Justice Center is?
What it does.
Yes, so Family Justice Center, we are a multi-center agency. So we exist, one place is just kind of this umbrella that brings together partners from community agencies to better serve victims of domestic violence. So we have a nurse, a civil attorney, and an advocate from the YWCA who are employed by the YWCA, but they come to work at our one place facility. We have someone from the Sheriff's Office Victims Assistance Unit that's at our building. We have Hispanic Interest Coalition of Alabama, an advocate, a court advocate on site. We've got someone from the DA's office. We are about to get, with a federal grant, we're about to get a DV prosecutor on site, as well as an analyst and investigator to kind of, we're creating, I think, a high-risk team, right? Correct. Yes, so we're going to create a high-risk DV team. We've got 2 detectives from the Birmingham Police Department on site. So all of these agencies working together, learning from each other, training each other, but then also existing to better support a victim of domestic violence who walks in and says, "Hi, I don't know what to do." Great, would you like to, I mean, not great, but would you like to talk with an advocate and get some help with safety planning? Oh, you think you want to file a police report? Let's contact Hoover Police Department where you live, where that incident occurred. We will call, get a patrol officer to drive to one place and come take your report right there so you can have an advocate sitting with you. You are not going to a police station, not telling your story 19 different times. We have the advocate who can help them fill out a protection from abuse order, and then that person can take that right over to family court. So multi-agency center all working together. That's what a family justice center is. And each agency kind of, in Florence, they might have different agencies on site than what we have in Birmingham and what's here at the one place in Montgomery here. So happy to answer any more questions about Camp Hope, but Rebecca, thank you for coming to that FTAP meeting with Christy Smith a few weeks ago. So, yes, any questions?
Thank you very much, Kelly. We appreciate it.
Sure.
Jeremy, always good to have you back, my friend.
Thank you.
It's been a while. Again, Rebecca has some information on this, and Kelly's card is here as well for anyone who wants some more information on that. Next on our agenda, Christy, Tutwiler Garden Program.
I have a PowerPoint, but I don't know if there's a way for me to share it up there.
Now you're getting way beyond me on that, on the technological side.
I have a flash drive. I'm just gonna give it'll make sense once I start speaking on what that is. Yeah. Okay. Okay. My name is Christy, for whoever doesn't know who I am, which probably most of you. And I'm with Troy University's Troy Tutwiler Garden Program. Yeah, that's just a picture of it. You can keep it up there. And we work with the females incarcerated at Tutwiler Women's Prison in the annex part. So for those who don't know how like the annex versus it's what they call up the hill building is, it's a little less maximum security, but it's still very like life sentences, there's drug offenses, there's murderers, like I mean it's all over the place. So the aim of this study originally for the Troy Tutwiler program was to address food insecurity among incarcerated individuals. And many of our inmates will attest to the lack of nutrition in their everyday meals. In this form that she has right there in her hand, we have our pre-test, our post-test, and some data. So that's just how we track their knowledge, which will make a little more sense later. So like an example of one of our inmates said that she eats grits, eggs, and biscuits for breakfast, for lunch, grits, eggs, and biscuit, for dinner, mainly noodles, and soda. That's what she wrote for, and then she said, same as above, same as above, same as above. And we all know that like a lack of nutrition can impact your physical health, mental health, and your daily mood. We all know what it's like to be hangry. It's not fun. And knowing and maintaining a healthy lifestyle can influence participants once released, because many have expressed their want to grow food, to eat healthier, and to try to stay in a healthy lifestyle, which starts with something as simple as eating good food. And we knew that this garden program would have more than just like the nutritional benefits. So then we really went into the horticulture therapy behind growing a garden with prisoners. So we based our program off of a horticulture therapy program in Rikers Island, New York. And their program has seen a 40% lower recidivism rate among their released inmates. But one critique between that and what ours would potentially have, since ours is a newer program, is that they are very selective about their participants. It's usually drug offenses, more nonviolent crimes, while we are open to all violent and nonviolent crimes. But the reason why we wanted to keep it open to all types of criminals is because a lot of sex offenders report a concern about lack of programming available for their crimes, because many programs don't allow sex offenders in their programming, especially for female sex offenders. And like I said, our study is new. Can you go to slide 6? It's the next one, I think. Yeah. While our study is new, we expect to see the recidivism rates as our inmates get released. So far, only 2 of our participants have been released. One of them, her name was Shannon. She was at our art exhibit that we had. And she was in for manslaughter, but she's got out, she got a job, and she's maintained a stable life. And she's also looking to go to Troy University now to get an education because she received a scholarship through our program. This idea of dirt therapy is linked to the idea of combating past trauma, since 73% of women incarcerated have a history of past mental disorder, abuse, or undiagnosed mental disorders. The Garden program helps to relieve stress caused by prison life. We've seen stress rates drop through our participants, as well as anxiety and depression, which many of them will write about in their pre-test and post-test, which is what he's passing around. And a lot of them, there's a commonality found within the inmates as they feel at peace while they're in the Garden. They feel like they're no longer in prison, which relieves stress of every day. Beyond being more at ease, the Garden's biggest attribute to the females is the ability to build skills, communicate, and get this certification of completion, which we give to the participants who finish, which helps them get jobs. So they take these 12-week classes and they work towards goals that they all set together so that they're not being told what to do, rather they are taking the responsibility to grow, to communicate properly, and to stick to the course and stick with attendance, because we have a strict attendance rule. If you miss 3 classes for no matter what reason, you're not going to get your certificate of completion, because that's how it works in the real world. You can't just not go to your job. And many of them enjoy seeing the work pay off. So they love to see, they put a seed in the ground and they take care of it and it grows and then it gives back to them. So that's something we wanted to mirror the way working is every day. You put your work into it, you're going to get the rewards back. And so far it's improved social skills, cognitive skills, physical mobility, psychosocial skills, and overall health and well-being of participants. And it contributes to a higher self-esteem. And then with the communication courses, as well as the certificate of completion, it prepares them for release and for job opportunities. So this slide that I have up right there is from our pre-test, and it explains ways that gardening can help you physically, emotionally, and psychologically. And this is what we have every participant write, and we've had so far about 50 participants answer pre-test and post-test. We also ask open-ended questions that helps us get, into their mind of what they're feeling, how does this help them. Let's see, where is it? Okay. And these communication classes I'm talking about is we used to we had this little book, just a simple book about how to communicate properly. And we noticed that, if you put a bunch of females in a room, they're going to end up fighting some way or another. So we decided to integrate these communication classes. But we used to do it as a backup, once a problem's already started, now let's teach it. But now we do it every other week. And many of them asked for it who have already been in our 3 programs. So right now we have an advanced program, graduate program, and a beginner's program. So the graduate program we just created. There's only 2 members in it. But they're going to be taking more leadership roles, and they're going to be talking deeper, helping us develop the program deeper, because this is their program that they've been with the whole time. So this is an example of our curriculum. This only shows the beginners and the advanced course because we're still developing the graduate course. And it's, just how to plant, what a plant is, and then nutritional values, how to read a label on a soda can or one of those things, like, so you know what you're putting in your body. Because, I mean, if you think about it, if you read, when you see that long list of things that, like, this is the ingredients and you don't know what half the words are, maybe you don't want to put that in your body, and then you could think about, oh, maybe I shouldn't be doing meth. Like, simple as that. So this is the certificates they get, and it goes on their record, which is supposed to help them once, you know, they get released. And we've had one, the person I already brought up, Shannon, she got a job because of the certificate through Walmart, and with her, she works with the bookkeeping of Walmart, and she's just got promoted actually right before our art exhibit that we had. Let's see, is that the last slide? Oh yeah, and then there's just a few more quotes from our participants about what the garden program means to them. It is beautiful to see the way these women progress. I mean, we've had a lot of, you know, tension arise between inmates not getting along, one being more controlling, one being more submissive, two being too controlling, and people butt heads. But I mean, we will sit them down and we'll say, well, do you want us to just strip the whole program away? We'll just leave, and you guys can, you know, be by yourself and eat the food that you have and not what they're growing, because they get to eat the food that they grow. That's what's, you know, the main projective was. But we have seen so many more participants join, and we also have the art gallery, which we did that you were at, and it was like a way to integrate something between the two gardening seasons that we do. And we had a professor from the art department come into the prison, and they painted 2 pieces of art, and that's we'll be bringing it tonight for the, what is it called?
It is changing the course, the prison art exhibit, and I do have a small video that I know that we are on time, so I will just be playing it a little bit later. So we will have contributions from this program.
Yeah.
That we appreciate.
But yeah, if you have any questions, I have a lot of data in my head too, but I was like, I can't just spill that out. It won't make any sense.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Christy. Any questions? Again, thank you very much. Thanks for being here today.
I don't know where this other one went.
It's down on the end. All right, Rebecca, you're on deck to finish us out.
Right, this is just a small presentation. I know we're on time, over time, so I appreciate your patience, but we're going to go ahead and just let this roll as we close out. It's just a short presentation of what to expect for tonight. And of course, we are having the changing the course, prison art exhibit tonight at State Archives at 6 o'clock. The youth need to come. It's exciting. There's some beautiful pieces from all over. Intern has done an amazing job in State Archives and all of our other partners. So as you are watching this, you'll see the different partners and some of the things that they have done and how that definitely impacts the populations that we all serve. I also have popcorn and water if you want to grab it on the way.
Rebecca provides snacks. Now that tells you something right there. That's her commitment. Let me say real quick, just to all those stakeholders who've been involved, and a lot of agencies have been with this arts program at Night at Archives. It really is pretty amazing. And I'll have to say, I got a huge education from it because, for one, I could barely draw stick figures, much less perform art. But it was pretty amazing to see what it did on recidivism, how it impacted the population. A lot of folks around this table were involved, and it's going to be a really good event. It's also an eye-opening event, and I appreciate all the different staffs, different agencies who were involved in putting it on. So it really is going to be pretty neat. So anybody gets a chance to come by, please do so. See, Rebecca's back there getting snacks and water for people. I respect that. It's good. Senator Barfoot, did you want to say anything before we closed out? And we do have a new member, Representative Prince Chestnut, who'll be joining us starting our next meeting.
I don't have anything to say.
My man.
I had to say something.
My friend. Anybody else from any other agency who want to share or discuss anything before we closed out? Everybody's trying to beat the rain out of this building. As someone who's served a lot of time in this building, like Senator Barfoot, the worst thing is once it starts raining outside, you can't get away, so you're stuck in this building, and that's not always the most pleasant place to be when it rains. Or when it's not raining. True. What you want to show?
I just have one more thing, mental health, Commissioner Boswell left it. I just wanted to show everyone these beautiful activity books that we work with mental health to create. When a parent or loved one goes to prison, and it's different age groups from preschool, 6 through 12, and 1st through 5th. And it's just an activity book for the children of our incarcerated population to kind of work through some of what they're feeling. You know, some of the thoughts of having a parent go to an institution, and also to go to visitation, or to go to a parole court hearing, or to go to court. It's very scary for a child to see their parent in that environment. So I just wanted to have these displayed, and you guys are more than welcome to look at them.
This is one of the similar programs that Governor Ivey's endorsed with regard to the coloring books for some of the kids going through different things in life. It really is pretty unique. When Rebecca first brought forward with it, I said, coloring books? We've got a lot of stuff going on about coloring books, but the more you look into it and see what it does, the therapeutic effect it has on those kids whose parents are going through the criminal justice system, it really is a pretty neat little program, and it's almost no cost whatsoever. It didn't cost us a hard thing to do them, so I think it's a neat little project to look at.
Jill Stallworth.
Yes.
Huge piece.
Tonight she finishes her work. Well, there's no other comments. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all for being here. Thank you.